Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 35.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cashflow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome back. Today, as you know, if you've looked at the show title, you know that we have yet another special guest. And what's interesting is when you think about, your journey through developing cash flow, when you think about your journey through becoming the real estate investor and business owner that you are looking to become or already are, you know that you're going to have impact on people. And if you've been paying attention, yes, we've been talking about a man by the name of Ziglar all month. And that's good because he's had impact on hundreds of millions of people. And one of the things that you may not even realize is the impact that you are having and whom you're impacting and what they're going to eventually go do one day. And what's interesting for me about this particular guest that we have today is that when he and I first met, he didn't know that he was having an impact on me. And then by virtue of him making a program available, that he continued to have an impact on me day in and day out, because that's part of what the program required. And I say that just to share this with you. You never know when you're going to hear or meet or run into that person or persons who has that golden nugget that could help you take that next step. The individual that's on the show today was that individual for me. He was able to help me make a shift, which allowed me to take that next step. And what's really pivotal for you to understand is that without that next step, this conversation, this podcast, and all the stuff that you've seen online, it probably wouldn't be there. Because without what he was able to help me discover and find, I don't know that I would have had the courage, desire, wherewithal to actually go out there and make these things happen. So what I want you to do is I want you to welcome Mr. John Assaraf. John?
Hey, Jay, it's great to be on. Thank you for that nice, introduction.
Indeed. I'm glad that you're here. And at the end of the day, what would you say who have been some of the mentors? Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about Zig Ziglar, but I'm kind of curious, who has been those people in your life that have been the ones that have helped you get to where you are? And as a matter of just due diligence, could you explain a little bit of some of the things that you've done that some people may have heard? Your bio is so long. It's just like, wow, I don't even know what to say.
Well, let me maybe start off by saying I got my start in business after getting into a lot of trouble with the law in my teens. And fortunately, I had an amazing real estate mentor who not only taught me how to invest in real estate, but also taught me how to build real estate companies. And I was in my early 20s when that happened. And fortunately, I stand on the shoulders of giants, as everybody else who achieves success usually has somebody or some book or something that has helped them really go from where they are to where they, want to be and create most from their lives. And so my initial, teachers and mentors were books and cassette tapes that my mentor gave me, and he just had me devour listening to hours upon hours of cassette tapes of, Zig Ziglar's, Dennis Waitley's, Brian Tracy's, back in the early 80s. And so, I listened to Earl Nightingale. I read Wallace D. Wattles. I read Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich, and all of the early pioneers of the mindset and the personal development movement. And I filled my mind like a farmer would fill, their garden with seeds. I filled my mind with the seeds of possibility at a very, very early age. And then I developed I guess the belief that maybe I could do this too. And I then added, in addition to the ideas that maybe I could achieve success, I also was very, very fortunate that my mentors weren't airy-fairy. And what I mean by that is they weren't the type of mentors who said, hey, just, sit in the corner and think and visualize and meditate. Many people may recognize me from the movie The Secret or one of my New York Times best-selling books, Having It All or The Answer. And one of my first mentors in real estate in sales was Tommy Hopkins. And Tommy Hopkins taught me something back in 1982 when the law of attraction was being taught. But he also taught that in addition to the law of attraction, attracting what you want based on your thoughts, there's another law that most people forget about. It's called the law of GOYA, the G-O-Y-A law. And the law of GOYA is the get off your ass law. And my mentors taught me that in addition to hoping and praying and visualizing and meditating and writing your goals down, you move towards your goals every single day by upgrading your knowledge, upgrading your skills, upgrading what you do, and then have this philosophy in your life called CANI, C-A-N-I, constant and never-ending improvement.
Yeah.
And so I just developed this philosophy that I adopted. It wasn't mine. I was given these philosophies to live by, that if I really wanted success, here's the formula. Just like there's a recipe for baking a cake, there's a recipe for ice skating, there's a recipe for skiing, there's a formula. And, my mentor saved me millions of dollars, and they saved me thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of hours of my life by following their blueprint and then adding my creative genius to it. And so I was really very, very blessed and fortunate that I got my life together, at the age of 19, 20, got into real estate and followed their sage advice.
Indeed. And that is definitely one of the things that I often tell people is that I'm not any genius. I just did what the people who were my mentors told me to do. And that's what makes the difference. Now, you talk about formulas. I would say that one of the formulas that Zig had was simply, if you can get everything in life that you want if you'll help other people get what they want. And that's definitely something I know that we work and strive for. What are some of your favorite sayings that you may have heard Zig say from time to time?
I only saw Zig, I think, once on stage. So I don't know a lot of his quotes, as far as Zig's quotes. I remember his energy, and it was so long ago that I saw him. And again, I'm 52 now, and I saw him in my 20s. And so I don't recall, his quotes. I recall his energy, his vitality, and how amazing he was on stage, and his presence was just, off the hook. So I don't recall any of his quotes. But I can share with you one of my favorite quotes that might help, and this came from one of my mentors, that leads into, doing anything you want better. And it's basically this: is hire people who play at things you have to work at. So hire people who play at things you have to work at.
Yes.
And I've lived with that, rule for myself, and that's saved me a lot of time and a lot of money.
Yeah, it's less stressful, that's for sure. Now, you mentioned, some of the things that you hire people that play at the things you have to work at. What were some of the things when you were first starting? And so pretend for a second, if you can, that I'm trying to get started in real estate investing. I'm trying to get started in business, because you said something very, very key. You developed the belief that you could do it too. And I think that there are a number of individuals out there who are trying to figure out how to develop that belief, because we get told that you're supposed to go to school, get good grades, get a job. That's what I'm supposed to do. How do you develop the belief of anything different? How did you do that?
Well, the inner game that I learned many, many years ago was to take the goals that I have, and the same way a Hollywood actor or actress learns a script that's brand new to them, and then they start to rehearse the script, and they start to emotionalize the script, and they practice the script, and they film and look at the film, and then they tweak their presentations. I learned to do that with my own mindset. So, for example, as I'm speaking with you right now, I'm looking at one of my vision boards where I have, my company's vision, our core values, my revenue goals for 5 years from now, my winning daily program, my life script is written right in front of me as I'm speaking with you right now. And so I rehearse it mentally every single day. I rehearse the beliefs that I need to have, the habits that I need to have, the emotions associated with those beliefs. And what happens is when you rehearse something over and over again, there's a part of your brain that really doesn't know the difference between something real or something imagined. And so when you start to rehearse over and over again, there comes a time where you start to believe it. And everything at one time or another is really a lie, from the perspective of, can I do it? Can't I do it? At the moment that you don't have the talent to do something, it's true you can't do it. So as I mentioned, when you're priming your brain, through visualization and meditation and looking at your goals every day, and you're upgrading your knowledge and your skills, you start to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And no differently than, an ice skater or a figure skater learns, each move that they need to make, and then they put those all together in order to create a routine. Or a musician will, take the notes and the song and each word and then put it all together to create a song. Or somebody learning how to play chess starts initially with feeling like they're an amateur. They don't know how to play the game, or they don't know how to. You first make the decision, and then you develop the beliefs and the habits and the knowledge and the skills. And over a period of time, you start to bridge that gap between where you are and where you want to be. And in the neuroscience field that I play in, there's something that we call as the imposter syndrome or the fraud syndrome, and that is really where we don't feel like we're that person that can do that. And that's just because you haven't yet developed the neural pathways or the beliefs and the skills to feel like somebody who can do that. And that's just a matter of time. And you have to learn how to be in the discomfort or uncomfort or unpleasant feeling zone long enough to get past that goofy beginner stage. And we all don't like that goofy beginner stage because, we look at other people's success and we compare ourselves to them. And it's like, oh, wow, look how well they do that. I can never do that. Well, what we're failing to usually understand is that they've probably invested, 6 months or 3 months or a year or 2 years or 3 years developing that skill that seems so far away from you. But the truth is you have just the same amount of ability or more, and as long as you put one foot in front of the other and you set your goals and you just start to create a path for yourself, then what you do is you start to move towards that goal, and within a period of time you start to achieve results, and you just have to be willing to go through that early goofy stage.
I totally agree. What's funny is that I've often told people that there are two things that you can't do at the same time, and they are you can't learn and look good simultaneously. That doesn't happen. While you're learning, you so don't look good. But once you know, then that's a whole different story. And what you were talking about as, how the brain functions, how we learn, all those types of things. When I first saw you, those were the things that got my attention. I was like, that's just interesting, and it's kind of like the whole, sharpening the saw thing before you go out there. With this brain of ours, that it can be our most wonderful tool or greatest detractor, depending on how well we train it. I'm just kind of curious, how on earth did you develop this interest in brain studies in the first place?
When I was in my early 20s, my first mentor told me that the reason I was getting myself into trouble and the reason that I was getting in trouble with the law specifically was because of my self-image. And when I asked him, what do you mean about my self-image? He says, what you believe is true about yourself is going to determine the behaviors that you take. And he said you can alter your self-image because right now you're behaving like you don't have a lot of self-respect. You're behaving like you're not smart enough. You're behaving like you're not good enough. You're behaving like you don't deserve to earn, money honestly. I was like, ooh, God, that hurts. But he's right. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I was worthy enough. I didn't think I was good enough. And my evidence that I had at the time were a proof that that was true. And he started me on this, what I call today's inner size program of developing the beliefs by understanding the beliefs are nothing more than neural patterns in the brain. Beliefs that are repeated over and over again to yourself or to your behaviors become your habits, and then your habits and beliefs will determine your emotions, and your habits, beliefs, and emotions will determine your identity. And then you will do everything in your power to maintain your identity. And so if you think about people who win the lottery, why do 85 to 90% of them lose the money within 3 years? And why do the same amount, percentage-wise, say it was the worst thing that ever happened to them? It's because the identity that they had or have when they won the lottery isn't in resonance or alignment with the success that they all of a sudden had monetarily. It's the same reason Hollywood stars who make a fortune and sell, tens of millions of records, all of a sudden kill themselves. It's too much for their identity to handle. And so in some cases they kill themselves, in other cases they use drugs or they use pills or they use alcohol as a way to suppress the unpleasant feelings that they're feeling as a result of the success. And so one of the most important things as you are growing in your success is make sure you're growing in your identity. Make sure you're growing in your self-worth. And you can do that by simply doing daily exercises, doing guided visualizations, doing guided meditations, cognitively priming your brain, which is nothing more than creating the new neural patterns in your brain to be able to achieve and also accept the new level of success that you're achieving, or you'll sabotage it. Think of, if you have a plant in a small pot, the plant will only grow as big as the pot will allow it to grow. If you want a plant to grow, take it out of the pot that it's in and give it more soil to grow in. Well, that's exactly the same thing that you have to do with your mindset. You have to expand your mindset and your awareness of how powerful you really are, not from an egotistical perspective. I like to look at it from a spiritual perspective, and that to me means that, we are one with that which created us. And whatever you believe created you, and I'm not talking about your mommy and your daddy, I'm talking about what created them and created the grandparents and created everything. I'm talking about that spiritual awareness. That's who you are. That's within you. And so when you start to look at it from that perspective and you start to think about, achieving success is your birthright and spirit is for fuller expression and expansion of itself, then you start to say, what can I be? What can I do? What can I give? What can I have? What can I become as this amazing individual that's meant to grow and serve and give and have and enjoy this great journey called life?
Exactly. The question that actually came up for me was, who can I help? And that's kind of what I've been doing or striving to do is to help. And more and more people change that particular identity, because I can remember two very specific parts, because my youth was very similar to your youth, and I can remember when I was in a seminar and the guy said, whoever you were before is, he said something to the effect, whoever you were before was irrelevant. Today, you're a real estate investor, and what real estate investors do, they do this, and they do this. That's when that is now who you are. And he said something to the effect of giving you permission to become that person and step into that new reality and go home and introduce your new self to all of your friends. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And, at that time, that's when we were still dealing with all of our, squatting and bank owned property and all this other stuff. But that was the beginnings of me accepting, because I think that's the second thing that you said in that last little bit. I thought that was very, very cool and key for everyone to hear. It's not just achieving something, it's accepting that you can achieve something. If you go from, earning $50,000 a year to $50,000 a month or more, you suddenly have to realize how to accept those types of things, because the world will place great value on what it is that you do as a real estate entrepreneur and investor. And you need to begin to prepare yourself for that. And the other group of people that I'm still working to help is more professional sports players, because I think they've got the same, I'll call it malady going on, when their identity is wrapped into their game, which is great, and they're good at what they do. However, where are the people that are trying to help them develop a life after the sports? And that's one of the things that we're able to bring to the table in many, many various different ways to help them slowly make that transition and make sure that they have, a steady stream of income that exists after the playing days are over. It's amazing to me how self-sabotaging we can be to ourselves simply because we're just not used to so much, say, abundance or positive things. Would you agree, disagree? How would you say about that?
Absolutely, and there's been a lot of studies, on athletes that leave the sport, that they've played at the highest level, and then all of a sudden their life goes to hell, and that's because they now have to formulate a new identity outside of their sporting life. And it's no different from, somebody who has a job who now wants to say, well, I'm going to take on real estate or start my own business, whatever the case might be. There's a new identity that has to be developed and integrated. And with that new identity, it's just an expansion of an identity. There's a lot of rationalization that goes on in somebody's brain, because they're playing the contrast game in their brain of, well, when I did this, I felt comfortable and I knew what I was doing. Now that I'm doing this, I'm again that novice, that inexperienced person. I'm not used to that. Here I was playing a sport. I had a great job or whatever the case might be, and now I don't know anything about this. And it's no different than a Rubik's Cube. If you started off, trying to solve a 16 by 16 sided Rubik's Cube, very few people on earth know how to do that. But they can. They do. There are people who do that. But if you start off with a 2 by 2 Rubik's Cube, just about every single person past the age of probably 7 years old can do it. Then you can move to 3 by 3, then 4 by 4, and 5 by 5, because you learn to recognize patterns. So first there's patterns within yourself, then there's patterns in the marketplace for whatever you're choosing to do. And so, we know, for example, real estate or the stock market. There isn't anybody who's been in real estate or the stock market long enough that won't agree with this statement. There are cycles to both.
Right. Buy
low, sell high, or buy and hold. The strategies are, up to you. But there are cycles. And so the inexperienced person, enters the cycle somewhere between, A and Z. And if they're inexperienced, if something happens that they don't understand, it causes them unpleasant feelings. And when they have unpleasant feelings, from a neurological perspective, people either fight their way out, they freeze, or they run. And in most cases, people run.
Yep.
And so what happens is that is a cause of inexperience. And so how do you get over inexperience? Well, you either A, do it by yourself and learn, B, get help doing it, or C, get somebody else to do it for you. So those are your three options. Or don't do anything at all, which is a recipe for disaster in most cases. So you can learn, how to master your mindset, master your emotions. You can learn how to, play the game of real estate or whatever you choose for that matter from people who are, experts, and save the time and the money of trying to figure it out yourself because, money is replaceable. Time is not.
Agreed.
And so one of my claim to fame is I don't try to figure most things out. I pay for specialized knowledge of people who've invested millions of dollars and 10, 20, 30 years or 5 years for that matter of experience before me. And I just learn what they're doing, and I'm a really, really good copycat.
The funny thing about that is, for those of you listening for the first time, you may not have heard me say this, but if you go back a few episodes, I was specifically, John, talking about my CFO, who over the past 2 or so years, she's been educating me. Her phrase for what you just said is, Jay, there are people for that. and she uses
That's exactly right.
And she uses it all the time. And, I've adopted that. That's been the new thing that I've been adopting. And I do only that. And the new phrase that I've been using is do only that which I do best and find someone else for the rest. And that's pretty much what we've been doing. And it's just funny that you just said that because people will ask me sometimes some very detailed questions about, the construction management or something that we use. And I'm like, I don't really know, but I can get you in front of the person who does. And we can kind of go from there. Okay. I know you are enjoying the interview with John Assaraf right now, and I will get you right back to it. So here's what we're going to do real fast. I'm going to take a small break from the interview to make sure that we get the information, i.e. the question answered from last time and this time. So last week's question was, what does triple net mean? Well, according to Investopedia, here's the long version of the definition. Now, many of you may be wondering, why do we keep getting, commercial real estate related questions? It's only because I'm in the process of negotiating and working through my to what is technically my first commercial real estate leases and deal, et cetera, et cetera. So it's on my mind a lot. Therefore, the questions are coming from that kind of place. So triple net simply means a lease agreement that designates the lessee, in this case the tenant, as solely being responsible for all of the costs relating to the asset being leased in addition to the rent fee applied under the lease. The structure of this type of lease requires the lessee to pay for net real estate taxes on the leased asset, net building insurance, net common area maintenance as well. The lessee has to pay the net amount of 3 types of costs, which is how the term got its name. And that's one of the things that I'm enjoying about this whole commercial deal is negotiating this type of lease. So it's definitely been a journey, and that's part of the reason why we continue to bring the information to you, because as you guys know, my goal here is to get to 1,000 units and 1 million square feet of commercial real estate space in the United States. And I'm just documenting this process, taking you along for the journey. Hopefully you are also learning some things as we go forward. All right. So if you want to get a copy of the upcoming book, My Cash Flow Creation System, what you need to do is answer this week's question. So if you got last week's questions right, you probably already been contacted. You got it right. That's great. This week's question, make sure though, when you send in your answer, that you also send in an address, because we can't email you a physical book. It doesn't work well. All right. So make sure you do that. Now, this week's question is also from something that's on my mind right now. This week's question: what type of income is specifically mentioned and taxed in Obamacare that applies to rental real estate? All right. Now, if you want to answer the question, you can also call in to 800-689-1764, or you can email your answer into cashflowquestion@cashflowdiary.com. Again, that's 800-689-1764 or cashflowquestion@cashflowdiary.com. Now let's get you back to the interview with John Assaraf. Hear the principle. The principle is the same regardless of the industry. You are what, and you can apply this in any area of your own passion that you so desire. And that's one of the greatest things I think about being an entrepreneur is the fact that we can go in any direction we want, and so long as we continue to develop ourselves. Would you agree?
I totally agree. The best investment you can make is investing in yourself. That's where the biggest bang for your buck is going to come from. It's investing in the knowledge, the skills, the beliefs, the habits in yourself so that you expand as a person. If you think about this, imagine if I had everybody on this call, just imagine for a moment that you had $10 million in debt right now. Most people go, holy crap, that's a lot of debt. Now, what if I said, now imagine Oprah Winfrey having $10 million in debt right now. Most people go, well, she can handle it. She's Oprah Winfrey. But at one point, she couldn't handle it. She had to become the person who could handle it. So it's never the problem that's the issue. It's never the circumstance that's the issue. It's the interpretation in the person that is the challenge. And so only you can give things meaning. Only you can interpret things a certain way. And your interpretation is going to be dictated by your beliefs, your experiences, your habits, and your paradigms of how you see the world. Well, why not expand how you see yourself? Why not expand what your possibilities are? And then why not, since you're doing stuff anyway and filling up your days with stuff, why not do the stuff that's going to give you the highest return on energy, ROE? And that will give you the best ROI, which is your return on investment. And so when you invest in you, what you're basically saying to yourself in the universe is, I am worth investing in. And if you say, I'm not going to invest in myself, then what you are saying is, I'm not worth investing in. Well, if you don't feel like you're worth investing in, guess what? People will treat you that way. You'll meet people who are like that as well. I certainly don't hang around with people that don't invest in themselves, and I certainly don't hang around with people that don't invest in others as well. And so that's where this mindset game, collides beautifully with the strategies and the tactics game, because you have to have both. You have to win the inner game, and you've got to understand the rules of the outer game. And when you put those two together, now we have a winning formula. Now we have a formula for growth, and I'm not just talking about financial growth. I'm talking about spiritual growth, happiness growth, family growth. Every type of growth that you want to have starts within.
Agreed.
And that is one of the things that all of the personal development gurus in the world since the beginning of time. You want to go back to the sages. You want to go to Buddha, to Jesus. You want to go to any of the sages. They all said that everything is within you. The universe is within you, and you are within the universe. And it starts with your thoughts.
One of the I don't know if the correct word is byproducts, but one of the things that I often am communicating to my wife is how, as I become a better business person, it helps me become a better husband, a better father, a better everything in so many different ways. And I just find, that to be very, very true. Now, I'm kind of curious because we all know that, we've got to develop and invest the time in ourselves. And I agree wholeheartedly. It's something that you are constantly doing, constantly reading, constantly learning all the time from every example. What would you say if you had to start over, or if you knew that there was that new person looking to grow or to expand, what are the most important skill sets that can help an entrepreneur be as great as they can be? And what should they start out with first?
That's a really good question. I guess it would depend on what their goals are. And so I would say first and foremost is ask yourself this question. And the question is, what do I want to trade my life for?
Ooh, good question.
What do I want to trade my life for? And what do I mean by that? Well, every day you're getting up, you're going to work, or you're going to build your business, you're investing time with people that you either like or don't like. And my question for you is the trade worth it? Most people have learned to ask themselves, am I worthy of my goals? Am I worthy of that? And I learned when I was 19 first to set my goals and then ask myself a different question. Are those goals worthy of me trading my life for? Are those goals worthy of me trading my life for? And if the answer is, yeah, I'll trade my life for that, then great, then exchange your life for that. If you don't think that those goals are worthy of your life, set bigger goals. Set more audacious goals. What kind of lifestyle do you want? Most people, say, here's the amount of money that I have, therefore here's the lifestyle that I want to live. I learned to do it a little bit differently. I learned to write down the lifestyle that I want to have and then to determine how much income I needed to have in order to live that lifestyle. And then use my genius brain and the brains of other people to figure out how I can do it versus why I can't. So you start off with the vision of what it is that you want to achieve. Then you discover how to achieve it, and there's more than enough how-to books. And the other thing that is really, really critical is base your decisions and your life on your highest core values. And very few people have ever taken the time to ask themselves, what do I value the most in my life? And very few people make their decisions based on what they value the most in their lives. And I'm not talking about the means values, which is how I'm going to achieve my ends value. So, for example, my top value is connecting with God. And so I make a lot of my decisions, most of my decisions, based on connection with God. And God just means to me the universal intelligence, that we're all created equal in the image of God, and I don't look at God as a person. I look at God as everything in the seen and unseen universe. And so I make concentrated efforts every day to connect with God. My next highest value is my family. So my health is my second highest value. And so what can I do today? Every day make decisions that are life-giving versus, life-taking from myself. The next is my family, and the next is contribution. So those are my four top, highest values. And all of my decisions are based on those four highest values first. Then I ask myself, what are the strategies and tactics? What are the things that I can do to live those highest values every day? And so money, for example, is a means to help me contribute more, take better care of my family, serve God better. So I look for ways every day to increase the revenues of my business. And I increase the revenues of my business by contributing and giving to the lives of others, and they in exchange give us money for us to create more products and services to serve them better. And so it's a beautiful cycle of integrating, what I want to trade my life for with what my highest core values are with my behaviors. And my company, the name of my company is Praxis Now. And Praxis means integrating your beliefs with your behaviors. And that's called congruency. When you do what you say you are and what you say you want, and that gives you a life that's fulfilled, that gives you a life that has meaning, and most importantly, gives you a life that gives you purpose. And that is really the way I guide my students, and I try to live my life as much as I can that way.
Indeed. You probably, I'm just going to, that cliche that we've all heard, do something that you love and you never work a day in your life. I'm going to just take a stab and say that that's exactly how you feel.
Oh, absolutely. I get to do this.
Yes.
I get
yes.
to write books. I get to be in documentaries. I get to speak on stage. I get to help people. It's servant leadership in my books, and it's like, sometimes I pinch myself going, people actually pay me for what I play at. And I feel like I'm just like an athlete, like a musician. There are, people that are rock stars and they get paid for that. The people that are athletes and they get paid for that. I get paid to help people retrain their brains. I get paid to do research. I get paid to teach what I learned so people can have amazing lives. And it's like, wow, if my mother and father only knew that I get paid to talk and to research and talk some more.
Exactly. Yes. And that's exactly what gets me excited. I mean, I've recently, I say in the last year and a half, have started developing actual new students who've begun to earn their first tens of thousands of dollars through our own programs. So I'm starting to feel that, that's just exciting when I can help other people do the same thing. Because it was just, and again, this was the key thing I want you guys to all hear. The key thing that I was able to obtain from, John's programs was the fact that I got the extra step to go in the direction necessary to grant me more fulfillment towards one of my higher values of just being able to help other people. It was so empty being by yourself when you have resources and you've got nobody to play with. It's like, but now that's not the case. I'm having so much fun helping other people that, yes, that's exactly how I feel, was exactly what you just said. I can't believe I get paid to help other people, and then we get paid to actually provide clean, safe, affordable housing. This is awesome. I would not, my friends have taken to asking me recently, what would you do? What are you going to do when this is done? I'm like, what do you mean when it's done? I don't know. I can't see myself doing anything else. And this is just so, it's just so fun to finally have found something. Because for so long in my life, especially as I started, I didn't know what that was going to be. I didn't even know how I was going to get there. And that's just amazing to me, that there are other individuals and that we can all find something like that here on this planet in that very same way.
Absolutely. And, the how will show up. The how will show up after you make the decision for what you want to achieve and what you want to do.
I like the order of that because oftentimes we're stuck waiting. I can't do this because I don't know how. How is irrelevant. And that's just definitely one of the foundational principles that, I set the goal, and many of you who have been following me know that we set the goal to end up at 1,000 units in the U.S. with 1 million square feet of commercial space. How? Don't know. I just only know that. And, for all of those reasons, resources continue to come to us. So it's been great. I definitely want to thank you, for your time today. Is there anything else that you would like to say or share? Is there a way for the audience to get a hold of more of the excellent information that, you've been able to produce with Praxis Now, et cetera? Anything else that you would want them to know?
You know what? If they want a free gift, they can go to my website, either praxisnow.com, which is praxisnow.com, and just download our Life on Target manual and video, which I'll walk them through setting their goals and why it's important to set goals in writing and then how to structure some of their goals. Or they can go to johnassaraf.com, JOHNASSARAF.com. And they can sign up there if they like for that. And join my fan page on Facebook if they like. I've got about 160,000 people that I interact with every day and share a lot of great insights there.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you for your time. Glad that you were here. Hopefully, you guys have learned something about the mindset and how important that is. Understand you don't get every offer accepted, but it's irrelevant when you set the goal to go in that particular direction. Not every tenant is the best tenant, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter because there's just a way to set the sail so that you can go off into the sunset, into the direction that you're looking for. So with that being said, we will talk to you soon. Until next time.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cash Flow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, cashflowdiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cash Flow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.